Hello, BookTube. I'm here to do a video on, get the title right, Penguin Classics That Don't Exist But Should. This was first done by Michael K. Vaughan, but in the dark, dim past, Steve Donahue did something similar when he was doing his uh, Daily Penguins. And since Michael's done it, several others have. I've seen Mark at Book Time with Elvis do it, and Steve Donahue. So I thought I'd stick my oar in. And I've got some mostly virtual prompts, or virtual props, that's it, and two real props. It's too hot here, and I do apologize. You're probably going to hear the fan. I have to have it on high because it just is stifling. It's up to 40 Celsius, well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. And inside, you can just add on 10 to 15 degrees. So, anyway, let's get going on this. The first, now that's, I thought it had gone to sleep. First one is C.W. Saram's Gods, Graves, and Scholars. And see, I've done mock-ups of these, but I can't put them on the screen, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way, holding up another tablet. Now, this was first published in 1949, and it is basically a survey, like an overall view of archaeology and archaeologists from beginning to right up into the 20th century, if I remember right. It's a long time since I've read it, but it's a very, very good book. I've read it several times, and I've just recently got a copy because I haven't had one for about 20 years. So, and I bought a cheap copy off of Abe. I splurged. But yeah, it's really good. The author, it's C.W. Saram, is a pseudonym. His real name is Merrick. It was originally written in German. There's a little interesting stuff about the author, but we won't get into that because that doesn't affect the writing. And as I say, it's a survey of archaeologists and archaeology, and it is full of thrills, thrill a minute, basically. At least I think it is. So, okay, so that's one. And there's no particular order here, other than the order that I have them here. Now, Michael K. Vaughan took one of mine, which I would have chosen, but that's fine. Was Clifford D Simmons' City. Now, that is essential, but I thought maybe I'll go with a novel his, but no, a massive selection of his short stories. You wouldn't be able to get them all. It would take several volumes, but a good like 800 or 1,000 page with a survey from 1939 up into the 80s that he wrote short stories, and that would be great with some critical. Get it back to where it should be. Some critical material. So Clifford D. Simmons selected short stories, but a honking large number of them. There is a series that it's almost finished. There's 12 of 14 volumes of his complete short fiction that is being done. I've shown it at various times on my channel, but they are expensive, and it's 14 volumes. So it'd be nice to have something that was, a single volume and some critical material in here. Because he writes, he even wrote westerns, so you could throw in some westerns as well, the better ones. So yeah, so that's number two. Number three, Steve Donahue chose Dance to the Music of Time by Anthony Pohl. And I, in sort of contrast to that, because these are two that sort of vie for readership or people, but I like this one better, as C.P. Snow's Strangers and Brothers. And this would have to be done in multiple volumes. It was done in 3 omnibus volumes at one time, 3 hardcovers. There's 11 novels. It was written from 1940 to 1970, and there's 11 novels, and they're pretty hefty. They're like 400 or 500 pages each. So you would need big volumes for three of them. And so yeah, so they're technology. Can't live with it and can't live without it. So there's volume one that I've mocked up, and that's sort of an evocative London street scene, circa 1930s ish. It's basically a story. It follows Lewis Elliott from sort of humble-ish beginnings, becoming a lawyer, and then going through the war, working for the ministry, and then also working at Cambridge. Yes, Cambridge, I think. Yeah, sorry, it's a while since I've read this. Cambridge, and it goes all the way through his life until he dies, and all his sort of trials, tribulations, everything throughout his life, and it's very, very well done. And the books are written that they overlap at times, they intertwine, but that doesn't affect the story for each one, because there's times where he's in, say, London, doing X, Y, and Z, and then at other times during that year he'll be in Cambridge. So one book will deal with the London area stuff, and then the other one will with Cambridge. It's done extremely well. And then we got Acadian literature, a selection. Now, they do have I don't think they've done, as far as I know, they have the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is an Acadian poem written in Acadian, and Acadian was the cuneiform was written in basically the Assyrian and Babylonian Empire, which was 900 BC to about 540-ish BC, and there's a lot more than just than just the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's other epics, there's other poems, and there's interesting letters that go back and forth, because there's the Amarna letters as well that are written in Akkadian, which are political letters that are very, very interesting, and you could throw in a few of these as well, because it's of the right period. And now we slip on to silent film, and this is where I have the original book here. Is Kevin Bronlau's, get the glare as least as possible, The Parade's Gone By. Now, that was written in 1968. It's a heavy book, and I'll explain why. And there's my mock-up of it, Mabel Normand directing. Now, this Kevin Bronlau's book was brought out... Sorry, I gotta find somewhere to set this. Brought out in 1968, as I say. At that time, silent film was waning, or at least interest in it. And this book really put it back on the map in interest. He went to Hollywood, and he interviewed everyone he could get a hold of. The makeup people, the stunt people, the directors, actors, actresses, everyone. And it's interspersed with those interviews, and it's profusely illustrated. So this would be an expensive book for Penguin to do, but they could do it. They could do it. Lillian Gish. Greta. Yeah, it's fabulous. And as a little added little bit here, mine is signed. I've only done the first one. The second one is Western. Oh, I always forget the order. He's done two other ones, Westerns and sort of social conscious Behind the Mask of Innocence, it's called. That's very similar to this, but this is an important book for silent film, so it should be in Penguin, regardless of the cost for the pictures. It would have to be done correctly. So yeah, so I've put Mabel Normand on the cover. Now, we had Acadian material, and there are two. I'm proposing selected text from Deir al Medina, which was the workers' village for the Valley of the Kings in the New Kingdom. 18th. I got it written down here because my brain is soggy today. 18th, 20th dynasties of the New Kingdom, 1550 to about 1080 BC. Now, it's a village. It's been pretty well fully excavated, and they found thousands and thousands of ostraca, like chips of limestone that they wrote on. And there's all sorts of stuff. It's fabulous material. There's letters. There was a strike at one point, I think, under Ramses, and they wrote and made their demands of why they were striking, and that letter is still extant. And there's all sorts of other things. Like there's a letter saying that so and so can't come to work today because he was in a fight last night and he's beat up. Things like that, and all sorts of details, everyday details. There's poetry, there is pornography, there's fiction, all sorts of stuff. The Penguin has put out two books. Well, they've redone the Wallace Budge's. Brain has failed me here now. The long scroll of Book of the Dead. Book of the Dead? No, not Book of the Dead. Anyway, it Wallace Budge, and that's been put out. And there's been another selected text of all periods, but I think specifically for Deir al Medina would be really, really cool to have, like a really nice, hefty one with lots of historical detail that's in there of the archaeology and everything. That would be just fabulous. Now, the next one's a bit contentious because of who he is, but he is an important writer and for science fiction, and he should be in here. He's an important writer and an important editor. It's John W. Campbell, to do a retrospective of his writing. Now, he gave up pretty well writing when he took over Astounding in 1938, but he's probably best known for his Who Goes There novella that's been made into several films, and recently the original full manuscript of it, called Frozen Hell, has been found and published. But it would be neat to have both these together with critical material and looking at the differences for those, as well as a good selection, if not all, of his Don A. Stewart stories. There's about 18 or 20, I think, and it was a pseudonym he used because his wife's maiden name was Donna Stewart, so Don A. Stewart. And a bunch of other short stories. It would be a good time capsule for 1930s science fiction, pre-Golden Age, but it would also have the hallmarks of what John W. Campbell wanted out of science fiction for Astounding, and to shape the future of it, which he did. Regardless of whoever doesn't like him, he shaped the science fiction that came later. And even when his power sort of broke in the late 40s, early 50s with the magazine of fantasy and science fiction and Galaxy, and then everyone after that, they still, like, it was in either response to him So it's still shaped. He shaped has or helped shape, um, what science fiction is, American science fiction, that is, too. I want to clarify that, because British science fiction was going in a slightly different way, and like Russian was, and in Europe and other places in the world had their own, but this definitely had its mark even on them. And he did, because the American market was so big and so powerful that he was extremely important for science fiction. And but he has been torn down today, and I don't think he should be. I think he should be in here. They should, acknowledge his shortcomings, but also celebrate his qualities, as well as an editor. And yes, he was very strict, and he wanted it his way or no way. It's his way or the highway, most of the time. But that did things, and you can't change that. Anyway, that's enough preaching. Now, I can't, like, this was a bit difficult, this one here, because I knew I wanted to get a travel sort of exploration one in, but who do I pick, and which one by who? So I chose Sir Richard Francis Burton's The Lake Regions of Central Equatorial Africa. He published this, I think it was in 1859, 1860, and he went with John Hanning Speke. They were trying to discover the source of the Nile, and Burton got it wrong, and more or less. Yeah, he did get it wrong. It was John Hanning Speke that actually got it right, but he didn't really have the right proof for it. So it's a bit, and there's a tragic ending for Speke as well. But that's sort of outside of this book. But it's difficult to pick something from Burton, because First Steps in East Africa would be a great one too, where he was in. I'm pretty sure that's when he was injured, where he got a spear through his face, like from one side right through to the other, knocked out teeth, and he barely survived. You could see the scars on his face in photographs. But yeah, so I've chose that one as a stand-in for everybody else, and most of these I can see like a whole series. And P.G. Wodehouse, he's been done in Penguin like you wouldn't believe, but as far as I know, they've never done a Black Penguin, and that's again difficult to find out which one or what to do. So I figured the complete Jeeves and Wooster's short stories, and that's basically from 1916. The first short stories came to about the beginning or mid 1960s for the short stories. And yeah, so that would be a definite volume for me. And the complete short stories. And another prop, a real one, and it's based on this book here, which is a fabulous book. It is the British Women Poets of the Long 18th Century, an anthology, edited by Paula R. Backscheider and Catherine E. Ingrassia, if I'm pronouncing those correctly. It's a honking book, but this is there's amazing poetry in here, and I thought this would be a fabulous anthology or a survey of British 18th century women poets. So a survey, and that's it. That's my 10 penguins. I think that was 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, 10. So there's my 10 penguins that don't exist but should. Take care, BookTube.